Are you just starting out in your darts journey and wondering what's it going to look like in a year? Or are you further along in your journey and do you have questions about where you should be right now, a year in? Well, if so, stick around because this video is for you. Hi guys and welcome back to the channel. So today we're talking about what darts looks like 1 year in. Now, this is a bit of a sticky point for players, I would say, because you've been playing for a year and you're improved, but you're maybe not as improved as much as you would like. And that's why I wanted to make this video. Quick disclaimer before we jump in. This video really is kind of made with a player in mind who's probably been practicing several times per week. I want to make that clear at the offset because obviously everybody has different amounts they can play, practice. I think even if you're someone who maybe just plays once a week, you can probably still get some insight from this video. But on the whole, it's generally, I've made this video thinking about the people who are practicing at least several times per week. So without any further ado, let's kind of jump into it. Let's talk about your throw, which is obviously a pretty big part of your game. A year into darts, your throw is going to feel stronger, it's going to have more conviction, you're going to be more confident about your throw, it's going to become more repeatable. I think when I talk about strength and conviction in your throw, what I'm really discussing is that looping sort of motion that you get. So I think for a lot of players when they're first starting out in the darts world, to me one of the hallmarks of that is the looping throw. The dart that goes up in the air and it kind of drops into the board and there's not really much power or conviction behind it. Obviously everyone kind of throws differently, but I think that generally is a fair description of beginner players. And as you play more and more, that becomes less and less frequent. You're going to have more strength in your arm, you're going to have just more conviction in the throw. The arc of the dart is going to get tighter. So rather than kind of going up and dropping down, it's going to be a shallower sort of arc, generally. Once again, one size does not fit all, but I think for the most part, your throw will be tighter and the arc of the dart will be shallower. I think at this stage, you have a clearer idea about your throw's identity, for lack of a better term. You know, you're going to have more of an idea about what it looks like when you throw the dart. You're going to have much more of an idea about what it feels like when you throw the dart, and it's going to become much more repeatable for you, which is an important foundation moving forward, because the more you play, the more you want to be repeating that same motion, that same movement. And if you can get that feel, if you can get that understanding about what your throw is, yes, it might iterate and improve over time, or it will, but it's only going to do that if you're repeating the throw and you know what your throw is. If you don't know what your throw is because you've just got started, then obviously it's tough to improve. So that's one of the key facets of improvement, is just really understanding what your throw is. I think another aspect of this is that you've got more trust in your throw. So when you've been playing for a bit of time and you have a clearer understanding of what your throw is and what you can do when you throw like that, you're less likely to move away from it when things are going bad. I imagine sort of a beginner player who is having a bit of a rough patch may move away from their throw and start throwing in a different way, and everything's kind of constantly changing. I think 1 year in, you're much more aligned with what your throw is actually going to consistently be. And that's an important thing. Even if it's going badly, you're going to keep doing it and you're going to eventually get your form back and you're going to start throwing better again, which is obviously a good thing. The next thing about being 1 year in is that the early chaos is largely gone. Now I say largely because it's not entirely gone. And by early chaos, what I'm talking about is you're aiming at the 20 and you hit double six. That's a bit chaotic. So that's going to be mostly gone. You're going to be tightening your range, your clustering of darts. It's going to be looking better a year in. These kind of meltdown legs where you might throw like 70 darts, for example, they are going to be far less common than they were at the beginning. When I think back to my early days in darts, I definitely had legs that were like, I don't know, 100 darts potentially where I couldn't hit a double. And maybe if you're watching this, you can relate to that and you feel the same way. 1 year in, you're still going to have those legs every kind of so often, but I think for the most part, they've kind of been eliminated now. You've got a much higher baseline, a higher floor, and that's a good thing for obvious reasons. In a game full of ups and downs and variance, if you can continue to raise that floor, your game is improving. So that's another good thing about being 1 year in. Scoring wise, you're going to be scoring better, obviously. You're going to be hitting more 20s, you're going to be hitting less 18s, less 12s, less 5s, less 1s. However, You are still going to hit 5s and 1s a year in. That's just inevitable. Inconsistency will still linger, and the funny thing is about these 5s and 1s is that, yes, you will hit them less often, but they will hurt more when you do. And that's okay. That's a sign that you're improving. But the scoring will probably be dragged down by that a little bit. Doubles are similar. They will improve, but you probably won't be quite where you want to be. So you will be hitting doubles and you will be definitely better than when you started, but probably not quite as many as you would like to hit. I think one important distinction with those doubles is that, yes, you might not be hitting them as much as you would like, but you no longer have that horrible sort of feeling when you're approaching a double where you think to yourself, I can't hit this, I can't finish this game. When I think back to my early stages of playing, that is definitely something that I used to think sometimes. It was like, oh God, I've got to hit this double and I'm probably going to really struggle to hit the double. And yeah, sometimes it is really hard to hit the double. But when a year in, that shouldn't feel the same way. It should feel better, you should have more conviction, and you'll feel more confident about that. Now let's talk about something at this stage that I think becomes pervasive for a lot of players, and it's frustration starts to creep in. And the reason frustration, I think, starts to creep in for players at this stage, and by players I mean myself when I was a year in, is you've improved, you're doing better, you've made progress, but you're not quite where you want to be. You feel like, I've been doing this for a period of time now, I should be better. The thing is, at this stage, you can score well. Like, you can have legs where you hit like tons, and you can hit some good doubles, and you can hit some consistently good 20s and trebles, and have some good legs. And that just only adds to the frustration when you're hitting these 5s and 1s, and the inconsistency just lingers. It doesn't feel like your score, your average, will reflect your potential. And that is a very frustrating thing. And I think at this stage, it's definitely the biggest enemy, is the frustration and the expectation. The expectation that you need to be better. The way I like to think of it is, imagine a house that needs renovation. This house is just a total mess when you get your hands on it. The roof is ruined, it's leaking, the house is just full of crap, every room needs renovating, kitchen, bathroom, blah, blah, blah. The house is just full of stuff. So when you start out renovating this house, you might fix the roof, which is a big job, and it's got a lot of returns. You might also clear out all the rubbish. So suddenly now, maybe, let's just imagine it takes you a year for this analogy. A year in, you might have fixed the roof, which was a big job. You might have cleared out the crap that was piled up to the ceiling. So now you've got a nice, empty, dry house that you can work with. You've done a lot of work, you've come a long way. But maybe when you're walking around the house, you just can't help but notice all the imperfections. You can't but notice all the extra work that needs doing. You can't help but notice the kitchen, the bathroom needs renovating. The walls need decorating. There's all these things. And I think about darts improvement the same way. Like, you've done a lot of good, you've come a long way, you've improved, you've made so much progress, but you can't help but notice the things that you're not quite doing just yet, at least not consistently anyway. And if you are at that stage where you're just frustrated with the progress or lack thereof because you feel like you should be further along, I would just encourage you to remember that you've probably improved your gameplay floor, your catastrophic sessions are probably far less bad than they used to be when you first started, and you bounce back faster from off days. And just finally, on that point of frustration, I would encourage you to remember that it's natural, that it's inevitable, and really it's a sign that you've improved and you've got better at the game because you've got higher expectations of yourself. Just don't beat yourself up too much. At this stage, expectations are going to rise faster than your execution, and that's okay. I'd call this the messy middle of darts, where the results don't necessarily reflect the time that you've put in, but you have done a lot of work under the surface. And I think at this stage, a lot of players will drop away and fall away. And I think those that stay and push through and outlast are the ones that obviously improve and keep going. But it's just not easy at this stage. If you've come this far, I would encourage you to zoom out, take a look back, and just compare yourself against previous versions of yourself. You're exactly where I would say a serious improver / committed player should be. So if you've come this far, thank you very much for watching. I really do appreciate it. Let me know down below, somewhere below this window, where you are in your journey. How's your first year been? Like, how did you find that 1 year point? Did you kind of get stuck in a little bit of a rut at that time? Did your expectations outpace your skill at that point. I say skill, it's not really skill, it's more results, I should say. Expectations outpace your results. And I think that is probably something that a lot of people can probably relate to, but let me know. Tell me. I'd like to hear. Drop a like and a subscribe as well, because that's appreciated very much, and it helps the channel a lot as I continue to grow. Yeah, thank you guys. Have a fantastic day, and I will catch you for the next one. Bye-bye.